I'm John with Affordable Quality Automotive. Thank you for joining us today. Today we got a 2017 Ford F-150 Marriott. We're going to do a two-wheel drive. We're going to do a driver's side front hub bearing on it. Stick with us. We'll show you from the ins and outs, from taking the tire off to removing the old hub and replacing it with a new hub, and what to look for when you actually have a bad hub bearing. Okay. The next thing we're going to take off is the brake caliper. All right, this guy right here, brake caliper and the mounting bracket for the caliper. All right, you can do it one or two ways. You can take these two bolts off. It's one here at the top and one at the bottom. Remove that, and you can take the caliper assembly off as well, or you can just take it off at the bracket and take the whole assembly off. It's one bolt here. There's one bolt here. And I take the bracket and the caliper off with one shot. But you do not want to have the caliper hanging by the brake line, so try to support it by putting on the upper control arm, usually where I set it at, or the upper control arm right here, or either the steering knuckle, the top of the steering knuckle. Either way will work for you. All right, so let's get started. I like to stick a pry bar in to take the pressure off the brake pads and rotors so the caliper can slide easily off the rotor. And just pry a little bit, find a good spot. You just want a little bit of movement in the caliper, not much. Just pry against that brake pad, so you break your bolts loose, it'll come right off. Just like that. Just a little bit there, just a little gap. The caliper bracket bolt is either going to be a 21mm or a 13/16 standard socket. You just break them free. Get your 1/2 inch breaker bar. All right, now that they're broken free, I'll grab my ratchet and finish up the job. All right, let me give you a close-up. You can see the two bolts I'm taking off. All right, so remember, I'm taking the whole caliper and bracket assembly. The bracket and the caliper is coming together. I didn't touch these bolts here. I didn't touch this one. And I did not touch this one at the bottom, okay? I just removed the two bracket bolts. The one is extended here and the one that's here, okay? Let's continue on. All right, now the two bolts are out. I move the bracket and I set caliper on top of my steering knuckle, okay? Just like that. Here are your two bolts. All right, continuing on. The rotor will come right off the hub. If it doesn't, sometimes you gotta take a hammer and bracket. Sometimes the brake pads will fall out, but we'll get those back in there too as well. And I'll show you how to do that. Now, sometimes there's a little bit of rust builds up here on the rotor and the hub, in between the rotor and the hub. So sometimes you just take a little tap with a hammer, both sides, until it works itself loose. Try not to hit the studs. Just the vibration to bring that rust loose. And you see a little bit of movement as that happens. Before you roll it right off. All right, and now you have your hub assembly. there are 4 bolts that hold this hub assembly on. Okay, they're on the back side of the hub and the steering knuckle. All right, this hub assembly comes with a wheel speed sensor as well, and that's the wheel speed sensor wire here. So before we get started, we want to take the wheel speed sensor wire loose. Okay, it's a little Allen head bolt. And the new one's gonna come with a wheel speed sensor. So what you do is just go back and trace it back where the connector is at. It's gonna be up here. Pop the hood. So I just took a flathead screwdriver and stuck in between the rear clip and the connector itself. As you can see, I just pushed it back. Stick a flathead screwdriver in this here and push the rear clip back. All right. Once the clip is back, you can release the clamp on the connector itself. And push down on that clip there. Okay, I only have 2 hands, so I'm gonna place the phone back, and you just push down this clip, and then you take your other hand and you pull the connector out free. Push down on the clip, pull the connector out. All right, now I have the wheel speed sensor wire loose. Okay, so one last bolt. It's gonna be an 8mm bolt on this bracket that we have to take off. All right, and then once we remove that, the whole assembly cable will come down, and it attaches to the hub bearing here. And the new one comes with one, so we put a whole assembly out with the wheel speed sensor. On the back side of the hub bearing, there are 4 18mm bolts that holds the hub in place. We remove all 4 of those bolts, the hub will come right out. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So the last bolt, the 4th bolt, cannot get a socket and a 1/2-inch breaker bar behind it, so I have to use the 18mm wrench to break that one free. Okay, this bolt right here. Now that we have all 4 bolts removed, you can take a pry bar or a hammer. There's a couple of quick taps, and it should come right out. Right, We are ready to go back in now with our new hub bearing assembly. All right. So, go ahead and put our, you want the cable in up, facing up. You want to go back through this notch on your back plate. So just take it around, slide it in place. All right, and then you put the rest of it in. Just like that. Okay, you can go ahead and start your 4 bolts in the back. Start one. And just turn it left or right until the bolt holes line up. Throw one of your bolts in. Start another one. Put it in by hand. Take the socket and ratchet your bolts back in place. And tighten your hub. Try to go in as evenly as possible. And remember, we got 1 bolt. You can't get the socket and ratchet on. You're gonna need an 18mm wrench to tighten that up. And that's your bottom left bolt if you're facing the hub assembly. And you don't have to take that bolt all the way out, all the way out either. You can just leave it in place until you get the new hub in. When we remove the old one. Have 18mm ratchet wrench. You don't have to have it, but it makes life a lot easier when you're putting hard to get your bolts in. Tighten that down, and I like to try to go back with my breaker, 1/2-inch breaker bar. To really crank down on it. My last bolt on left, 18mm wrench. Tighten it down. And the hub is in place. All right, next thing you want to do is route your wheel speed sensor cable. All right, so you go ahead and route it on that brake line, and you got your place for your 8mm bolt. All right, now we're routing our wheel speed sensor cable. You got your place for your 8mm bolt. Put it in place and start your bolt. All right, route that into that clip. All right. Place that in place. Goes front of that brake line and through here. Your last clip. This clip is in place. That's in place. And you tighten your bolt up. 8mm bolt. 8mm bolt up. All right. And now, only thing left is to connect it at the top. And we'll go back up top and connect it. All right, see our cable. Reach it. All right. We have a blue cable right here, and we just place it back in place. Top. All right, now that we have the hub bearing assembly on, we're gonna go ahead and put our rotor back on. This next step. All we do is line our lugs up, pop it in place. Caliper and caliper bracket is gonna hold it in place. Just push it up on the hub and it's good to go. All right, so when we took our caliper off, one of our brake pads came out. All right, the actual outer brake pad came out. So it's very simple to put it back in place. That happens, and just put it back with the round part, and it's with the same variation as the caliper itself. You place it back in the clips. That's all you do. And remember, we pried a little bit when we took the caliper off, so it's easier to remove the caliper, and it's easier to place the caliper back on once you make that little spacing. Just push your rotor back on the hub. All right, line your caliper up. Like so. You place it right back on your hub. All right, it's on there. All right, it's on the rotor. You get one of your caliper bracket bolts, and you just line it up and start the threads. Okay. All right, so all we did was line this bolt up with the bolt holes on the caliper bracket bolt. All right, we went through the steering knuckle to the caliper bracket bolt. And we line it up and start turning the threads in. So we got the top bolt in. We're gonna put the bottom bolt in, line it up, and start the threads on it. All right, and then we're gonna grab our 21mm socket, or 13/16. And we're gonna start ratcheting the bolts in and tighten them down. All right, once you got them tight, I like to go back through with our breaker bar and make sure that we are tight. Okay, you're all set. Only thing left to do is put your tire back on and lower your jack. And now, you have your old hub bearing and your new hub bearing in place. You did it yourself right in your driveway. All right, you're all set. Now we have a finished 2017 Ford F-150 driver side hub bearing to completion. Follow the step-by-steps. You can do this yourself, no problem, with ease. Any tuning in, like, subscribe, follow us.